Drago didn't just disappear, he was consumed alive. Grimmel's entire legacy is a lie. And Toothless? He was never just a pet, he was a revolutionary. These aren't theories, they're hidden truths buried in How to Train Your Dragon. Stick around because the last one will rewrite everything you thought you knew. Miss this, and you'll never see Burke the same way again. At the 10th spot, let's crack open a darker twist on Drago's fate. What if his own monstrous titan, the Bewilderbeast, turned on him? When the villainous warlord vanishes beneath the sea in How to Train Your Dragon 2, it's easy to assume he simply fled with his beast. But what if that final plunge into the ocean was his end, not his escape? Drago treated the Bewilderbeast like a mindless war machine, warping it with years of cruelty. But the moment Toothless shattered the beast's mental chains, something primal could have awakened inside him. Free at last, what would a vengeful alpha do to the one who enslaved it? The answer is bone-chilling. It devoured Drago. No dramatic final battle. No redemption arc. Just one brutal act of rebellion from a dragon tired of being a pawn. It would explain why Drago is never seen or heard from again, and why even Grimmel, who references his fall, doesn't elaborate. Maybe no one really knows, because there were no remains left to find. Let's move to number 9, where we take a long, suspicious look at Grimmel's so-called legacy. He claims to have wiped Night Furies off the face of the earth, but the math and the evidence just doesn't add up. Drago wore dragon trophies. Hunters kept scales and horns. But Grimmel? Not even a single black fawn. No souvenirs. No proof. Just a sinister smirk and tall tales. If he truly exterminated an entire species, wouldn't he carry at least one relic of his conquests? Even worse, he didn't know Toothless could turn invisible. How does the Night Fury expert miss such a core ability? It gets more absurd when you look at his gear. Rickety airships and sluggish crossbows wouldn't land a single hit on a dragon that can move faster than lightning. Most likely, Grimmel fabricated his entire reputation to maintain fear and dominance. And if that's true, it means hope still flickers. More Night Furies could be hiding in distant skies, untouched by Grimmel's lies. Theory number 8 dives deep into the mind of Hiccup and suggests he might have been hallucinating. In The Longest Day, Hiccup and the gang are maltreated by strange, aggressive dragons called Shadow Wings. But what if they never existed at all? Everyone was suffering from extreme exhaustion, anxiety, paranoia, irrationality. Yet Hiccup seemed unusually composed. Why? Because his mind had slipped into a different kind of breakdown. Vivid hallucinations. The Shadow Wings are a dragon species we never hear about again. Not before. Not after. It's as if they were conjured by a sleep-starved brain under pressure. Even their anatomy is suspicious. A massive mother dragon launching smaller dragons like missiles? That's biological nonsense. Evolution doesn't work like that. The entire encounter feels like a fever dream, one brought on by stress, sleeplessness, and Hiccup's growing obsession with protecting the dragon world. Coming in at number 7 is a haunting re-examination of one of the series' most pivotal moments: Hiccup's missing leg. The official story is that he was burned in the Red Death's final blast and Toothless couldn't save him fully in time. But let's look closer. Hiccup falls headfirst. His legs would have been the last to touch the flames. And we never actually see the injury. What if Toothless, in a panic, had to make a life or death choice? Maybe he used his teeth to yank Hiccup out of danger, and in doing so, crushed his leg beyond repair. Gobber may have kept the truth buried to spare them both trauma, replacing fact with a more heroic version. But if this theory is true, then Toothless carries the guilt of saving his rider by hurting him. And Hiccup's legendary bond with the Night Fury is forged not just in fire, but in pain and forgiveness. And now, Theory 6, perhaps the most shocking of them all. What if the world of How to Train Your Dragon isn't set in the past, but in the ruins of the future? A post-apocalyptic age where fragments of lost civilization are scattered among Viking clans and fire-breathing beasts? Let's examine the clues. The Dragon Eye, a device that reacts to dragon fire with glowing symbols, behaves more like a futuristic scanner than medieval gear. The Dragon Manual refers to magnesium flames, a chemical not discovered until centuries after the so-called Viking Age. How do they know this? Simple. They're descendants of survivors from a technological collapse. The dragons themselves, possibly mutated remnants of bioengineered creatures or animals twisted by radiation. The war that broke the world also birthed the dragons. And as humanity rebuilt itself with swords and sails, it unknowingly preserved echoes of the old world. like bedtime stories of fire and flight turned real. Burke isn't a frozen past. It's the thought-out future. Clocking in at number 5 is the chilling suspicion that Viggo Grimborn, the mastermind villain of Race to the Edge, didn't die, he vanished. The last glimpse we get of him is heart-wrenching, riddled with arrows, back turned, seemingly eliminating himself in a blaze of redemption. But something doesn't sit right. In that final standoff, Viggo wasn't alone. He had a Skrill, a living lightning bolt, a dragon so deadly it could turn an entire battlefield into ash in seconds. Why, then, would Viggo die against a few second-rate dragon hunters with crossbows? It doesn't track. Not for a man who once outwitted Hiccup, survived being swallowed by a volcano, and danced with death more times than anyone in the franchise. This theory proposes that Viggo faked his demise again, escaping in the chaos with the Skrill's help, abandoning the world of dragon hunting. In the shadows, he could be rebuilding. Not an empire, but a sanctuary, protecting dragons as penance, training them as allies. A villain turned ghost. A ghost turned guardian. At number 4, here's a twist worthy of psychological thrillers. What if Viggo really did die in that volcano? And everything we saw afterward was a projection? According to this theory, Viggo's later appearances weren't real. They were hallucinations created by Hiccup's spiraling guilt. Hiccup, always desperate to redeem even his enemies, couldn't accept Viggo's death. So his subconscious created an illusion, a fantasy where Viggo survives, evolves, and even grows to respect dragons. Every encounter becomes less about strategy and more about closure. By the time Viggo dies again, it isn't really him dying. It's Hiccup finally releasing the guilt, letting go of the hope that redemption could be found in every enemy. In this interpretation, Viggo's second death symbolizes acceptance, not defeat. And what we thought was a final duel was really the last act of a personal reckoning inside Hiccup's mind. At number 3, we turn the lens on Toothless himself. The fan-favorite Night Fury isn't just fast, smart, and adorable, he's terrifying. This theory argues that Night Furies weren't designed for fishing or livestock. They were born to hunt dragons. Every aspect of Toothless screams apex predator. Near invisibility, stealth attacks, plasma blasts that rival bewilderbeasts. These are not the tools of a creature looking for salmon. They are the tools of a life taker meant to take down rival dragons. It's not that Toothless is just that good. He's genetically designed for precision takedowns. No wonder he could go head-to-head with monstrous nightmares, Skrill, and even the Red Death. This also explains why Night Furies are so rare. Apex predators never thrive in large numbers. They sit atop the ecosystem, always fewer, always more dangerous. It's not that Toothless was special. It's that his species is lethal by design. Coming in hot at number 2 is a theory that reshapes our understanding of Stoic the Vast. What if the loving but stern father wasn't just winging it, but carefully crafting Hiccup's rise from dreamer to chief? This theory paints Stoic as a master strategist, setting up controlled challenges to sharpen his son into a worthy leader. First, he assigns him to dragon training, a deliberate move to test courage and independence. Then come the outcasts, led by Stoic's suspiciously old friend Alvin. Could Alvin's attacks have been staged, just dangerous enough to toughen Hiccup without breaking him? Each new villain, from trappers to warlords, seems to arrive just as Hiccup levels up. Coincidence? Or calculated steps in a grand political game? Stoic, often seen as a blunt warrior, might have been playing a long, quiet game of legacy, shaping his heir through fire and chaos to prepare him for the ultimate test, which is Drago's War. And finally, the wildest, and perhaps most eye-opening, theory of them all. Toothless was never a pawn. He was a rebel. At number 1 is the radical idea that from the very beginning, Toothless was already plotting to overthrow the Red Death. Remember the first raid? All the other dragons are looting and fleeing, but not Toothless. He's not grabbing sheep. He's not following orders. He's watching the battlefield, calculating, protecting his own kind. Then, when Hiccup wounds him and builds a tail fin, Toothless makes no effort to return to the dragon nest. Why? Because he's done taking orders. He's escaped the hive mind. He's free, and he sees in Hiccup a potential ally, not just a rider. When they return to the nest later, it's not to return home. It's to show Hiccup the scale of tyranny and spark a revolution. The final battle against the Red Death wasn't a fluke. It was the culmination of Toothless' uprising, one carefully orchestrated through quiet rebellion and led not by a Viking, but by a Night Fury who refused to be ruled. So which of these theories shattered your view of how to train your dragon? Do you believe Drago's fate was darker than we ever imagined, or that Toothless was the true mastermind all along? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's debate. And if you want more mind-bending dragon truths, make sure you subscribe right now.